Hey friends, welcome back to my channel, and today I am bringing you July's Tarot TBR. I am so excited to bring this back. I didn't do it at all in June because I have been celebrating Pride Month and I have been doing whatever-a-thon and had so many other things going on that I didn't really want to try and add to my plate as far as my reading goes for this month. Also, it was the end of the school year for me. I was struggling to get through the last couple of weeks of school, figuring out what I was doing for the summer, all of those things. June has been amazing so far. It is not quite the end of June when I'm filming this, but I have been so successful in all of my reading and I want to just keep that momentum going for July. So I am really excited to figure out what I'm going to be reading this month. I'm not really doing many readathons in July. I am looking forward to slowing it down a little bit, having more time for creative work, having more time for visiting friends and those kinds of things. I'm hoping that July will be kind of a rest month for me because when I go into August, I'm going to be teaching full-time again. So it's really my only month to rest, so I'm trying to take it easy on myself a bit. In July, I definitely want to be participating in Summerween. This is a annual readathon that takes place every single summer, hosted by these two wonderful people. I will link all of their information down below as well as the announcement video for Summerween, but essentially it's just reading scary movies and celebrating fall time and Halloween in the middle of the summer when it's hottest and we're desperately wishing that we had fall weather. Summer has been coming slow here. Honestly, we've had a lot of rain, we've had a lot of cold days, and it's nearly the end of June and it doesn't really feel like summer is getting started yet. So I can't say that I am nostalgic for the cold weather quite yet. But I am definitely looking forward to reading the spooky books during Summerween. So I have a few of those set aside that I'll kind of go over towards the end. But for now, let's go over what I drew for my tarot cards. The first card I pulled was Death. When I was pulling these cards, I was really glad that I wasn't necessarily pulling for myself because there's a lot of ominous cards in my deck this month. And the prompt for this card reads, "Death is a natural cycle and comes in many forms. Read a horror/thriller or a book that features a significant ending." Now, I decided to stretch this prompt just a little bit, and I'm not doing the horror thriller kind of death. I'm not going to do the traditional way that you would think of death as having like a significant death in the family. That's what I did for this card last time. But in this time, I'm going to be using the aspect of the prompt that is talking about a significant ending. And for that, I chose Oaths of Legacy by Emily Skrutskie. And I read the first novel in this series this last month in June. I absolutely loved it. It was the very first book I read in June. It was my very first Pride book that I read. This is a queer novel featuring gay protagonists, young men. And I fell head over heels for this story. It was so good. It definitely made me think of fan fiction that I have read in the past and made me very nostalgic for reading fan fiction and enjoying that kind of writing. And so I immediately purchased the second book in the series. It just came out in paperback this month, and it is book 2 of the Rite trilogy. This is a space saga. It is the story of these two young men who live in a galactic world where one empire has taken over the other. And they've both been raised in the aftermath of this takeover, this war, this massacre that happened as when they were young. And one of the boys is from the imperial family, the one who conquered the other empire. And the other was from the world that had been conquered. So they're on opposite sides of this conflict, growing up in the aftermath of the conflict. And they are both training to be pilots. They are working for the current empire. And in the very beginning of the first book, you learn that one of the boys, Gal, is actually the heir to the current empire and has been in hiding. There is an assassination attempt on his life, and that spurs the rest of this entire story. Now, there is a very cataclysmic ending to the end of this first book. And it is a giant spoiler, so I can't tell you. But you're going to have to trust me that there is definitely a significant end to a part of that story that we're picking up in this novel. I am so much looking forward to reading this. It'll probably be the one I jump into first. We'll see. The second card that I pulled was the Tower, which is, if you guys know tarot, also a very pessimistic card. It's a card that you don't really want to see when you get pulled for tarot in general. There's a lot of different interpretations for tarot, obviously, but the Tower generally speaks of another like cataclysmic change in your life. If either it's death or something else that's going to happen that rocks your life to its core. The prompt for this card, according to what I've created, is no life is untouched by disaster. Read a hard-hitting memoir or a book featuring a cataclysmic event. Now, for this book, I chose The Three-Body Problem, and I do own it, but it's up at the top of my bookshelf in one of those like bind-ups of all 3 books, and it's ginormous and it's squished in there, so it's really hard to get out. So I'm just gonna put a picture right here. It's The Three-Body Problem. This is a book that has been recommended to me from many different people. Several people that I know have read it and absolutely loved it. I know it's really confusing. One of my friends compared it to like reading a Doctor Who novel, except like more than that. It's like more mind-boggling than Doctor Who, just because there's a lot of science in this story. It is very science heavy. It is science fiction. It requires a lot of brain power to understand everything that's happening in the story, which I'm ready for. I've been really feeling like reading science fiction lately, so I'm really excited to finally get to this. I think it's been on my TBR for like 7 years now, so I'm really glad I'm finally getting it on here, and I am calling it a cataclysmic event because in this story there is a group of scientists who have somehow figured out how to contact an alien race, and this alien race is now planning on invading Earth, so I would consider an alien invasion a cataclysmic event. The third card that I pulled was the Lovers, and the prompt for this card is, love comes in many forms. Read a book featuring any kind of love. Now, this could be family love, this could be friendship love, but I have decided that I'm going to pick up this beast, and this is A Cruel and Fated Light, which is the second book to A Dark and Hollow Star. And this just came out this month. I had it on pre-order and it came to me, and I have been chomping at the bit to dive into this book. I read A Dark and Hollow Star earlier this year. I buddy read it with a very close friend of mine. We both loved it so much. And there are many, many different kinds of love in this story. There's family love, there is lover love, there is friendship love, and there's so many characters and so much intrigue and magic and queerness. Just read the series. I really love it. It is kind of complex at first. There's a lot of history, there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of different characters. I did have to create like a spreadsheet to help myself keep everything in order, but it was really, really well done. I really loved it, and I'm so excited to jump into the second book. I think it's only a duology. I think this is the final book, but I'll let you know once I know for sure. Fourth, I pulled the Sun, and the prompt for the Sun is to bask in the radiance of the sun. Read a book set in a hot climate. Now, there is a specific book that's set in a hot climate that I've tried to read for 2 TBRs now, and that is A Psalm of Storm and Silence by Roxanne A. Brown, and this is the second book to A Song of Wraiths and Ruin, which I loved. It was so good. I read it in February, and then tried to read it the sequel during the next month. Didn't finish it. Tried to read it again last month in May, but completely derailed my TBR in May. Did not finish my Tarot TBR at all. So it's coming back. I'm going to try it again. I'm really excited to read it, and I am determined to get it finished in July. But essentially it is another fantasy. It's YA. It is written by a Black author, and there is mental health representation, there is elemental magic, there is political intrigue and murder and mayhem and all of the things that I look for in a book, essentially. So I am very much excited to finish off that series. Finally, I pulled the Suspended Person, or the Hanging Man. And this is a card that generally when you pull it, it encourages you to like go with the flow and be flexible in your life. And so I interpreted this as a book prompt as, go with the flow of water. Read a book that heavily features a body of water. And this one stumped me for a hot minute because I don't have anything like that I really want to read that features water or elemental water or anything like that I can think of off the top of my head. But what I did come up with was The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. And I'm doing this backwards because typically with Erin Morgenstern you read The Night Circus and then you read The Starless Sea. But I'm doing it backwards. I have not read The Night Circus yet, but I'm going to jump into The Starless Sea this month. I have no idea what it's about, honestly. I know that it's very lyrical. I know that the writing is quite flowery and poetic, which personally I tend to enjoy, so I'm not worried about that. And I know that it is like an underground city of tunnels and it's on the shores of an underground sea called the Starless Sea. So it features a large body of water, and I'm going to count it. And I already had it on my Audible as a purchased book. It was a free book that I got at one point. I have heard mixed reviews. Some people love it, some people hate it. I have a feeling I'm going to really like it. So I'm looking forward to starting it. I also am really wanting to get to The Night Circus. It's up there somewhere. I don't think you can see it, but for now, Starless Sea it is. That was it for my Tarot TBR. Those were the cards that I pulled. Those are the ones I have to read. But I also have a few others that I really want to get to this month. Last month, in my June TBR, I had this giant beast of a book called Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. And I have it from the library, and I've kept it and renewed it multiple times because I'm determined to get this read. And I'm pretty sure I'm reaching the end of the amount of times that I can renew this book, so I really need to get to it. But on Scribd, there is this amazing audiobook that is just, it's a full cast, full sound effects, like basically listening to a movie as an audiobook. And it's several parts long and it's epic, and I want to experience this book that way. So that is one of my plans for this month as well. I have a lot of pretty hefty books on my TBR this month because I think I could get through them because I don't have a lot of plans yet for the month. So I'm hoping that I can do a lot of reading. Warbreaker is a epic fantasy. I go into my books most often not really knowing anything about it. I am trying to read Brandon Sanderson's books in order. He has many books out and they're all part of this giant cosmia that is like the world that these books are set in. And there's a recommended order to read them. So I read Elantris first. There was some debate over whether to read Elantris or Warbreaker first. So I went with Elantris and I loved it. That was a 5-star read. And then now I'm going into Warbreaker. And then after that is the Mistborn trilogy. And I do have the first book in the Mistborn trilogy waiting for me after I finish this. So this is definitely on my list of things. Another book that I recently got is Malice by Heather Walter. This was really popular when it came out. It was very highly anticipated on BookTube. A lot of my favorite BookTubers are really talking about this, and before it got published. And then after it was published, I heard less about it, and I'm not sure. I don't think it really held up to the hype as far as I know, according to what I've seen on BookTube. But I still really want to read it. It is essentially a fairy tale retelling, a Sleeping Beauty retelling, in which Sleeping Beauty and the witch fall in love. So it's a sapphic story. And I wanted to fit it into June, but I don't think I will. So I'm going to see if I can fit it in next month. And then obviously at the end of the month, we have Summerween, and I have some books picked out that I absolutely want to read during that time. They're like the spooky books that I've been just saving for that. So one of them is VE Schwab, brand new, beautiful book called Gallant. And this, I know almost 100% that this is going to be a 5-star read for me. It has everything that I love about spooky stories. It has illustrations. It has a spooky kind of haunted house feel. I mean, just look how beautiful it is. And it's VE Schwab. I intend to also do a VE Schwab vlog coming up in July, so keep an eye out for that. But VE Schwab is a queen. She's amazing. They're amazing. Victoria Schwab. So I 100% want to read this in July, and it will happen during Summerween. I also have another very popular kind of spooky book that I have not read yet, and that is Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is a book that I've seen everywhere. It's all over Book Talk. It's all over BookTube. I have a tendency to shy away from books that are really, really hyped, especially if they're like literary fiction or thrillers, just because I am contrary like that. And I get annoyed when I hear about the same books over and over and over again. But I would really like to read this book, so I'm going to read it during Summerween. And then if I have time, I also have this cute middle grade that I got a while back called The Mystery of Black Hollow Lane. This is a, I think it's a boarding school. Yeah, it's a boarding school mystery / like thriller middle grade book, which I've heard is actually quite good and quite creepy. Several of my favorite booktubers, Steph loves, JD Ray reads. I think Gavin's read this as well. So like a lot of the really popular booktubers have read this and really enjoyed it, and I am looking forward to diving into this one as well. So if I don't get to this one in July, I will probably read it in October. I think that pretty much covers it. I hope you guys enjoyed my video. Give me a like and subscribe to my channel if you did, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Take care.